It's like, what do braces or Invisalign, how do they move teeth?
Light,
slow,
constant,
steady forces.
steady pressure.
Right.
That's exactly what the tongue does, just from the other side.
Welcome to the Alfie Podcast, episode number 38, with Susie Q in the studio. I know you guys saw our first podcast we did several months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Highly watched, and for good reason. It was very informative, educational, and brought a lot of insight from myofunctional therapy. And Susie is the best in the business, so I wanted to bring her back, and you're not going to want to miss this because we're going to get into a little more detail about what you're seeing with jaw surgery recoveries and what things are missed with people that don't see a myofunctional therapist. Of course, as you know, I recommend everybody see a myofunctional therapist. Definitely after surgery, but any airway patient, it's a very important part of the puzzle. So, Susie, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me. Always.
Definitely. Being honest, did not know what a myofunctional therapist was.
I didn't either. I mean, if you would have asked me 10
about
years
5,
ago,
exactly.
I had no idea what it was.
Exactly.
So.
Maybe it's about 5 years now that we've been recommending patients to see a myofunctional therapist, and it's really changed the game for us. And I see it even evolving in your practice.
Mm-hmm.
The abilities you have to help people and identify things has gotten a lot better, and it's really changed outcomes and recoveries. It's been a really important part of our program. What are you seeing in these patients that go through jaw surgery and you're recovering them? What are things that you're picking up that we wouldn't have been picking up had they not seen you?
I think every case is very unique, obviously. You know that. But there's also a lot of common ground between a lot of airway cases. You know, people that are struggling with small airways, small jaws, and sleep concerns and breathing concerns. So although they are very unique, they are very similar in many ways. And ideally, when I can see somebody before jaw surgery, at least once or twice. Now, they don't have space for their breathing, for their tongue, for all the things to be optimized, but we can work on a couple things ahead of time. So then when they come out of surgery, they're like, that's right. She told me this is what I should be thinking about.
Right.
And they can already start kind of thinking of some of those things and processing that. And then usually I start working with them about a month or so after jaw surgery, give or take, depending on the surgery, depending on some different things, but it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks after. And a big thing, I know you made a post recently about some things as far as healing. Movement is good. Mindset is good. You know, so those are some of the things you talked about. One thing I like to do too is when I see them before jaw surgery is I give them a list of things like, you might want to consider these things. You might want to consider this kind of water bottle, or you know, these kind of things for healing.
Just preparing them,
right? Because I've heard so much feedback because I work with so many of your patients that I hear what works, what doesn't work. Yeah. So I usually email them a list of, hey, this has actually been compiled from numerous different clients that have contributed to this list. And then afterwards, you know, they're like, oh, this worked for me, that didn't work for me. So I hear a lot of like what's good, what isn't good, troubleshooting kind of things. And then I pass that on to people. But movement is big, like really talking. Some people after jaw surgery, they're not talking. You should be trying to talk right away. Yeah, you should be getting up and going for walks right away.
This is a great thing. Don't buy one of those whiteboards.
No.
With a dryer.
Don't do it. You need to be talking.
Marker.
And those are things I tell people beforehand. Like, it's like you need to, at the hospital, get up and go for a walk. Yeah. Take some pajamas to change out of your gown. Get up and go for a walk if you can. When you get home, try to go for a walk every day. You know, talking is good. Talk to your family.
And I actually encourage singing.
Yeah, singing's amazing.
Pick your favorite songs and just go for it. Just sing.
And moving your lips. Like, I'm like, everything's going to feel tight. Things have been moved forward. Things have been stretched. So I'm like, I always tell people, your whole skeleton has come forward. Your soft tissues are trying to catch up to that. Yeah. So movement is good. And I give them little things to do in those first few weeks where I'm not seeing them yet, but I've given them a list of some things that they can do when they feel up to it. And then once we start back with therapy, you know, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks after surgery, then obviously we're going to start doing some other things. And we're easing into it again, depending on how their surgery is, how they're healing. But that movement is big.
Okay. I'm going to stop you for a second.
Okay.
Because let's go back to that. When you see them before surgery, and of course everybody's different, but there are a lot of commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 5 things you could think of that are the most common that you pick up before surgery in these airway patients?
Most all of them tell me, I feel like I don't have enough room for my tongue.
I hear that all the time.
They may not know they're a tongue thruster, but once you bring it to their attention, or if someone else has brought it to their attention, like their orthodontist, or maybe they did speech when they were a kid, or whatever the case, then it sticks with them and they realize it and they catch it and it bothers them. So tongue space is a big thing that I hear. Another big thing is mouth breathing, low tongue posture. Obviously, they don't have enough tongue space. Their tongue's not going to be in the right place.
I mean, would you say that's like the majority of patients?
Yeah, for sure.
I find that too, and I find tongue ties to be very common.
Tongue ties can be very common. Not all of them have tongue ties, and a lot of times, even if they've been told they have a tongue tie, that doesn't mean we end up doing a release.
Right.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of them we don't do releases on. They get enough improvement after jaw surgery and after working on functional things with me, where we don't do a release. So tongue ties, yes, that's another one.
Lip incompetence.
Yes, mentalis strain. So many. I had one today that I'm about to see for a consult. They sent me a pre-surgery photo. She's had surgery, and I'm about to start working with her. And I looked at her pre-surgery photo, and her chin was so retruded. It was all dimpled. Her mouth posture was open. Total lip incompetence and mentalis strain, meaning the dimpling of the chin muscles, because they have to purse to keep their lips together. Those are super, super common. I don't know, was that 5? That was 4 maybe?
Yeah, how about posture?
Overall posture, forward head posture, forward shoulders. So yeah, posture is a big one for sure, but that goes back to tongue posture too. If your tongue is up in the right place, usually that's going to help with your overall posture. And if you're breathing correctly, that's going to help with your overall posture too. I mean, our body's made up of systems. Everything's connected.
Right.
So if one thing's off, it's going to throw a whole lot of other stuff off.
Top 2 things you have them work on before surgery. Most common.
We talk about tongue posture, where we want it to be. They usually don't quite have enough space, so it's not optimal, but at least they're aware of it. And I also try to get them to really think about swallowing correctly, because that's going to be a big thing after jaw surgery.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're swollen, they're sore, they feel like they have a harder time swallowing. Some people feel like, holy cow, I've never been able to swallow so easy after surgery. So a lot of people react differently to that, depending on how their healing is. So I like to make sure they know what's considered correct, so that they can think about that as soon as they wake up. And I've had people text me from the hospital and say, oh my gosh, I just woke up, swallowing so easy now, because they know what to do.
Yeah.
So those are the top 2 things I do before surgery. Yeah. And then showing them how to move their lips so that they know what they can do in those first few weeks after surgery. That's not going to
give them
conflict with anything. Yeah, because I don't want to do anything that's going to conflict with the plates being healed, sutures, those kind of things. So, light kind of list. And I think that's what I hear from a lot of people too. I have patients of yours, my clients, that tell me on a regular basis, just having the confidence to know what I can do and can't do, and that you tell me I can do it, it's not going to mess something up.
Yeah.
Because they want to do stuff, but then they're reluctant. Like, am I going to mess it up? Am I going to and with guidance, they know what they can and can't do. So they feel a lot more confident. Even when they start chewing, I have people, we talk sometimes just about foods. And I'm like, well, why don't you try this and try that and make suggestions, because they don't know. Sometimes they feel so isolated and they feel like they're the only one going through this. And I'm like, well, no, I've seen this work for someone else, and this is what they did, and different foods and recipes and things. So a lot of times we talk about that kind of stuff too. Just getting through that. All the healing can look very differently for people, but it can be as easy as what are you eating as far as foods? Because you mentioned that in your post the other day. You need to be eating. You need to be getting your calories and your protein. And a lot of times people are fearful of that.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's like a liquid diet.
Yeah, it's not.
It's got to be Smoothie King or nothing else.
No.
But no, you can eat.
You can totally eat.
Just like you chew and then swallow. Do the chewing on the plate, then swallow.
Yeah, I love that. Do the chewing on the plate. I love that. Cut it up. Cut it. Like Johnny talked about that in one of his podcasts. And I tell people that all the time. Keep it small bites. Less than half the spoon or fork is something that he had told me that he did.
And keep it wet.
That's great. Keep it wet.
Yep.
Yeah, and even if you kind of mush it with your tongue a little bit, get a little saliva mixed in, and then swallow it. You're not chewing.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of variation that you can have with that type of diet. It doesn't have to be smoothies.
What are the biggest things you think are missed in patients that don't see a myofunctional therapist?
Proper function. I mean, they've never had proper function. But that's another commonality before surgery that I see is they don't have proper oral rest posture, meaning the tongue's not in the right place, the lip competence, the jaw, nasal breathing. And so how do you just expect that you're gonna change their skeleton, and then now they're gonna wake up and have proper function when they haven't had it their whole life? This person, doesn't matter if they're, a 10-year-old or a 70-year-old. You're not going to change someone's functions by just changing the structures.
Right.
So how they swallow, how they posture their tongue.
It takes work.
How they
it's
talk
rehab.
even.
Yeah.
A lot of
they've
times.
been compensating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I tell people too, like, you've got to think your square footage has changed. It's like you just moved the wall in your bedroom or in your living room. So now you've got to figure out how to move the furniture around in that space and how to decorate that space. Well, your tongue and your mouth muscles have to figure out how to work within that space now. And there's a lot that goes on in there: talking, eating, breathing, lots of stuff.
That's such an important part of it, because for some patients it's a chicken before the egg, and others it's the egg before the chicken. It's like all these patients, they're having surgery because there's a structural issue, right? There is no space for the tongue. Sometimes they're narrow, they're behind, they're protruded, they're open bites, they're lip incompetent. All these structural problems are going to cause an inability to function properly.
They're going to compensate.
Yeah, like the tongue doesn't have room, so it's not going to have the proper form.
Yeah, so it may go forward. It may rest forward. It may push forward and thrust forward when they swallow, when they talk, when it's resting, because it doesn't have enough room.
Or the other way around, like they're tongue-tied and their
back.
tongue never did the right posture to grow the occlusion into a nice wide arches and avoid an open bite and put pressure on the upper jaw to grow and all these things. So whatever it is, chicken or the egg, all these patients have functional problems and they're compensating. So what happens is when you don't address those things, and I've seen this, it's been a huge game changer having patients work with you. If you don't address those functional problems over time, if the tongue is low posture, if the tongue is thrusting, if the lips are having these weird compensations that, or habits that they used to have, it's going to start changing the bite and lengthening the jaws, and you're going to see not what we know as relapse, because the bones are healed in these patients, but the function can start changing the form long-term over time. And then patients are not going to have the success or stability that they need. So it's like so common sense, in every orthopedic operation, there's always a physical therapist that's going to help, because we can move the bones, we're going to reattach the muscles, there's structure's going to change. But now what's happened to the soft tissues? They're in a new position, but also the rehabilitation component to it, right? It's like if you break your arm and put it in a cast, by the time that bone is healed and the cast is off, that muscle is completely atrophied, right? And then you need rehab to get that muscle functioning. Or same with shoulder surgery, you need to get the soft tissues rehabbing, the tendons stretching, and the muscles hypertrophying. It's the same thing in the face. It's a very complex structure. There's a lot of ligaments and muscles in the face, and they're going to get weak after surgery, or they're already weak because of improper function. And you have to have a physical trainer. In our case, it's a myofunctional therapist, work on those muscles so that the form is going to be stable.
Yeah, to optimize everything. And that way it's like your retainer. Your tongue is your retainer.
Totally.
Your built-in retainer. So it's going to keep the jaws in the right place. If your tongue is up, it's kind of like a chin strap. It holds your lower jaw up and in place. It's also, if the tongue is pushing or thrusting, it's going to mess up your ortho.
Totally.
Make your ortho take longer, and then you're going to have relapse.
Yeah.
So not only it changes the positioning of the jaws and the teeth.
Yes.
If the muscles aren't optimized. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Form follows function.
And you think about those two; those are two great, analogies. But they're not analogies because they're real, right? It's like, what do braces or Invisalign? How do they move teeth?
Light,
slow,
constant,
steady forces.
steady pressure.
Right.
That's exactly what the tongue does, just from the other side.
Correct. So if your tongue is putting steady forces that's inappropriate, the teeth are going to move, just like they would with braces. And the same philosophy goes for retainment, for retainers, right? A retainer is going to hold those teeth against improper form. But if your tongue and lips and buccinator muscles and facial muscles are all retaining in a healthy position, the teeth won't move.
Right.
And theoretically, people should not have to be dependent on retainers for the rest of their life. I always thought that was a silly thing. When I learned in dental school, it's like, oh yeah, you have to have a retainer for the rest of your life. It made no sense to me because, like, what are you fighting?
Yeah,
right? And nobody even
exactly.
asked that question. What are we fighting? But
Well,
the
and that's
reality
like
is
every jaw surgery patient, like you said, should have myofunctional therapy. Really, every ortho person should have
every
myofunctional therapy because
100%.
why do they have malocclusion to begin with?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to wear a retainer for life. Like, totally.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like the whole ortho industry is like you're going to straighten teeth, and for so long, orthodontists have been guilty of just focusing on straightening those teeth that are crowded and not even thinking about why they're crowded in the first place.
And
right?
then why did
'Cause
they
braces
wind
alone
up back
is-
in my office with relapse? I
Right.
had braces 3 times.
Yes.
I speak from experience. I had a bad tongue thrust.
Yeah, and so many of my patients have had ortho 2, 3, 4 times. And I actually was discussing this with a patient earlier today. It's like such a fascinating human behavioral thing because if you have a pet at home, you know, like I had a dog growing up, right? And I remember witnessing my dog try to jump over the gate that we put a dog door or dog gate between the kitchen and the living room. And I remember my dog trying to jump it and got caught midair on the gate and cried from pain, right? It was very unpleasant. Never again did my dog try to do that. Never again. It learned from its mistake. And I remember noticing that, like, oh, that's pretty smart. Like, it did something, it didn't work, stopped, right? But, like, I'm 44 years old now. I see humans repeat the same thing over and over and over again. It's really interesting. It's like, it's our ego on so many levels that gets us there. But orthodontists themselves or dentists and surgeons are guilty of this. It's like, why you're doing the same thing. If somebody had braces 1, 2, 3 times, and the patient too, at some point.
What are we missing?
Yes.
Right? What are we not doing correctly here?
Right.
What are we not optimizing? It's function.
Yeah. So myofunctional therapy is so important. Form follows function. Functional matrix theory, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's real. And I had a professor, Melvin Moss, who discovered or talked about the functional matrix, coined it, functional matrix theory, when I was at Columbia. And I remember that being like a controversial theory, or there was a lot of, you know, is it true? Is it not true? Does form follow function? It's absolutely true, and we see it. We see it every day. But it's so true in this discussion.
Yeah, for sure, totally. You also ask about like after jaw surgery, you know, things that we're looking at, like obviously tongue posture, scar tissue.
Yes.
Like adhesions.
Yep.
We deal with that a lot, and I mean, we talked on our last podcast about that fine tuning. And it's such a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's important.
I can't tell you how many people, you did 2 last week, and I communicate with people daily, like after they've had, you know, any kind of release of oral ties, and you and I were reviewing some of those cases earlier, and it's like the feedback I get.
Yeah,
We're like, that
so
was
much
like
relief
such a difference.
afterwards.
You know, having that little scar band right there, and my tongue, you know, if they need their tongue tie release. Some people scar more than others. Some people, it's how much did they move afterwards or not move afterwards. But like I said, too, some people just scar more than others. We see a lot of patients that have, you know, different types of hypermobility and connective tissue disorders. And of course, you know, they can have a tendency to scar more. So we're looking for those things in those people. Like, hey, we really want to do this and this and this and up it because we know you may be more likely to scar than the next guy.
Right.
So we catch on to that so much more now, too, than we did even a year ago.
To try to avoid these scars from happening, but also to identify when they do so we can address them.
Absolutely.
And I love this because it's taking these recoveries to such a different level. I'd never heard of anyone even looking at, you know, scarring in the gums from these intraoral incisions ever. It's not, of course they happen, right? So we don't make incisions in the skin. Everything's inside the mouth. But just like you can have scars on the outside, you can have scars on the inside. They're not really visible because they're hidden, but they can have little bands or adhesions. and they could prevent proper
Movement.
function or
Yeah.
movement. They can trap food and all these things. And,
Yeah.
you know, these are things that most surgeons never look at or consider. Most patients don't even think that it's a thing. But we're getting to that level where we're looking at these fine details. And you're right, it's a very easy thing in a post-op visit to release those
Oh, yeah.
little adhesions. It's not a difficult thing to do, but it does make a lot of difference for some of these patients.
Yeah, so I'm identifying, and you know, sometimes we can soften those with like doing different stretches and things where it doesn't need to be done. Maybe in the beginning we think this might be something, but after a few months, because usually, like you said, it's done at a post-op. Usually it's like a 4 or 6 month kind of post-op. If there's any of those adhesions and or a tongue tie release that needs to be done, we usually do those together oftentimes, but we wait because it could change. It might be tight in the beginning, but then it starts to soften a little bit, or it might not be there in the first couple months, and all of a sudden one pops up. You're like, oh wait, okay, now you've got this tight place and your lips pulling down on this one side, or when you smile it's not going up the same way, or you can't keep your lips closed the way that you want to, or sometimes people even feel like they can't talk clearly because they can't move like their lips fully because they've got some of those tight adhesions. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
People feel a lot of relief after that. So I love that you look at that, and you know, we always address those areas because I can tell you other surgeons that I work with dismiss it.
Yeah.
People will
It's
go
not on
in
the
and
radar.
ask them, can you do this?
wasn't-
Can you do that? And their surgeon's like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's like the surgery is a complex surgery, and it's getting so much better. And until was at the level we can do it now in terms of precision, stability, better recoveries, there were so many bigger issues that was never on anybody's radar, and still isn't in most of the world. But that's what excites me when we're looking at these things, because we're getting that
Tiny
much better,
little details.
right?
Yeah.
And it's making the outcomes better. So that is exciting. How do people find a myofunctional therapist, you know, around the country?
Well, now there's a lot more availability, obviously. There's a lot of therapists that do virtual therapy. I do virtual therapy, as you know. I mostly work with teens and adults. I see a few kids. There are some myofunctional therapists that really focus on the younger population. So Google search, obviously, Instagram, there's a lot of, you know, information there. But also finding like what it is that you're looking for. Is this something for your child? Is there something for an adult? Is this a more complex case? You want to make sure, talk to them, you know, reach out to them, do a consult, get to kind of know them, maybe find other people that have met with them and see what their experiences are. If you're in any kind of Facebook groups, like I know there's jaw surgery Facebook groups or various different things like that. Ask those kind of people who they've worked with, because you definitely want to work with someone that, whatever it is that you're needing, you want to work with someone that's experienced in that.
And ask your surgeon.
Ask your surgeon.
And if your surgeon says, I don't work with a myofunctional therapist,
we won't talk about that, right? No one would say that.
Reach out to us.
No,
you'll be surprised.
I know, exactly. But no, I mean, you can find them online. Yeah. There's lots, again, Facebook groups. There's groups for myofunctional therapy. There's lots of different groups.
The average patient. So this is my recommendation. Every single patient, ortho or surgical or MARPI, whatever it is, if you're dealing with small jaws, crowded teeth, impacted teeth, all these things, you need a myofunctional therapist to help you have success. So I say every patient. For our surgical patients, on average, how many times are you seeing these patients after surgery? You said 1 or 2 times before, ideally. How many times after surgery?
After, it varies. Some people I see like maybe 4 or 5 times total, but we're stretching that out. It might be that I'm seeing them monthly, or sometimes I see them every 2 weeks. Sometimes I see them a month. Sometimes it's stretched out even more. Oftentimes it might be 8 appointments. It might be 12 appointments. It kind of really depends on what they need. Like if they know they have a tongue tie and they know that they're going to eventually want to do a tongue tie release or scar tissue or both, that's likely going to be more of like 8 to 12 category as far as number of visits. I do things maybe not the exact same way a lot of other therapists. I tell people I'm kind of like a private coach, like a math tutor or like a tennis coach. Like I would rather see you less and you practice things more between our visits, because when I am working with people, I want to optimize that time. And then we can also spend more time on troubleshooting other things. Like I said, talking about their diet, talking about other various things. So I give them things to practice in between. And
Yep.
sometimes people say, you know what, I want to have an extra week to work on this. That's fine.
Mhm.
Let's schedule in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So number of visits can vary depending on what we need to work on. If there's oral ties involved, how far ahead they are starting out. Some people have been doing stuff before. They've been mewing. Maybe they've done myofunctional therapy before. They
Right.
just didn't have enough tongue space. They might have had a tongue tie release before.
Mm.
So they may be a whole
Right.
lot further along where they don't need a whole
Yeah.
lot afterwards.
And more I'm seeing patients that are already tied into myofunctional therapists,
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
awesome. It says a lot about the
Absolutely.
population that we're attracting here, but it is a good thing.
So then they might not need a whole lot
Yeah.
afterwards because they've done a lot on the front end.
Yeah.
So good question, but it's kind of a hard answer.
Yeah. And you've been coaching my 3 children, 11, 8, and 6, and we were just on vacation with them, and they're all been doing exercises and competing with each other
Yeah.
on tongue posture.
We were having a competition today with that, like who can hold the longest tongue suction.
Yeah.
'Cause
They
I
do
can tell
like
they
competing.
like that competitive.
Oh yeah. It's genetic.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap up. I did want to bring this here to give more attention to how important myofunctional therapy is, things that we're looking for, why it's important. Susie's always combing through our comments, so if you have any questions for Susie or for me, go ahead and put them in the comments. There's no bad question because if you have it, other people have it.
Absolutely.
And it'll be valuable for us to answer that. So thank you. I know we're going to have you back here again.
Yeah, today was kind of spur of the moment, but I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always happy to
this is
come
good.
back anytime. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Kobe, of course, right?
Yes, of course.